Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty ancient system, one developed by Zen monks, and it's all about building a level of consistency so unshakable, so absolute, that it can actually be, well, frightening. And that quote right there, it really gets to the heart of it. We're not just talking about building a good habit, like going to the gym. We're talking about forging a discipline so complete that it actually makes other people uncomfortable. This is the whole point of a system called Gyoji, a practice that literally perpetuates itself. Now, to really get how this system works, we first have to understand the problem it's built to solve. And to do that, let's meet a programmer named Raphael. He was stuck in a cycle of failure that I'm guessing many of us will find painfully familiar. Yeah, does this look familiar? Raphael's week always played out the exact same way. Monday, he was on fire, total motivation, ready to crush his goals. But then, by Wednesday, that little voice starts whispering in his head, the negotiations begin. And by Friday, it's a total surrender with all the usual promises to start fresh again on Monday. Sound familiar? He tried everything. All the habit tracking apps, accountability partners, you name it, he tried it. But nothing stuck. And what he didn't realize was that he was fighting a battle he was never, ever going to win. Because the problem wasn't a lack of willpower. It was the way his brain is wired. So, Raphael's big breakthrough happened when he finally stopped trying to push harder and started trying to work smarter. He stumbled onto the secrets of these Zen monks, whose consistency has been going strong for centuries, and it all started with one core idea. The entire foundation of this thing is Gyoji. It translates to continuous practice without gaps. And that's not just a nice phrase. It means the practice has to keep going without even a tiny little exception, because that one gap, that's the crack where all your old patterns come rushing right back in. This brings up a really fascinating way our brain sorts through commitments. See, when a promise is just private to yourself, your brain puts it in the reversible box. It knows it can negotiate its way out. But when you make that commitment public, our deep, primitive brain sees failure as a social threat, a survival threat even, and that makes the commitment feel completely irreversible. So that's exactly what Raphael did. He took his goal out of that private, reversible box and made it public. He wrote it down, he signed it, and then he posted it on social media for everyone to see. All of a sudden, every person he knew became his fuel. The social pain of admitting he failed became way bigger than the physical pain of actually doing the work. But even with all this new social pressure, Raphael was still fighting his own biology every single morning. Okay, so he'd stopped negotiating if he was going to do it, but he hadn't stopped negotiating when, and that led him to the second key principle. And this just nails it, doesn't it? Every single day, we burn up so much precious mental energy on that one simple question: when am I going to do this thing? By picking a fixed, totally non-negotiable time, for Raphael that was 5 a.m., he just deleted that decision from his day. It wasn't about being a morning person, it was about giving himself zero excuses. So he'd locked down the time, and after a couple of weeks, his body actually started waking up automatically. The schedule wasn't a variable anymore. But our minds, they're sneaky, right? They're always looking for a new loophole. Instead of arguing about when he would practice, his mind started arguing about what he would practice. And this is what led Raphael to the next stage. If he was going to create a practice that truly had no gaps, he had to learn how to fight back against not just his own mind, but also the inevitable chaos of life. He learned this really counterintuitive truth. Variety is the enemy of consistency. It sounds wrong, but every time you change up your routine, you force your brain to make all these little micro decisions. And every single decision is a crack where your old habits can leak back in. So he locked it all down. 20 push-ups, 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of reading. Same stuff, same order, same time, every single day. And there's some powerful science behind this. Research from MIT shows that when you repeat an action in the exact same context for about 66 days, something amazing happens. The brain's basal ganglia, that's the part that's responsible for habits, it just takes over. You're not deciding to do it anymore, you're just doing it. Willpower is no longer part of the equation. Right, but here it is. This is the breaking point for almost everyone. We think that because the conditions aren't perfect, it's okay to skip a day. We tell ourselves that little lie: oh, if I can't do it perfectly, I'll just wait and do it tomorrow. And that all-or-nothing thinking is exactly what kills consistency. And this quote from the Zen master Dogen just brilliantly explains the danger. A gap isn't rest, it's a retreat. It's basically an open invitation for your old self to crawl right back in. The goal isn't to be perfect, the goal is continuity. Raphael finally understood this. When he had to travel for work, you know what he did? He did push-ups in the airport bathroom. When he got the flu, he did a tiny scaled-down version of his routine. The practice became like a river. Yeah, during a drought, it might slow to a trickle, but it never, ever stops flowing. So to guarantee this continuity, he basically planned for failure. He literally wrote down every single obstacle that had ever thrown him off course, and he created a pre-solution for each one. When X happens, I will do Y. Simple. There's no decision to make in that moment of chaos, because the answer's already been decided. Okay, so this brings us to the final transformation. This is where all these principles come together to create someone who is, for all intents and purposes, completely unbreakable. After 3 solid months of this uninterrupted practice, something profound had changed. His discipline became so automatic, so ingrained, that it actually started to make other people uncomfortable. And when your friends start telling you that your consistency is scary, that's how you know you're on the right track. You're proving that what they call impossible is really just uncomfortable. So, when you boil it all down, the entire Gyoji system is built on these 4 pillars. They all work together to just completely eliminate that mental negotiation and turn your actions into automatic reflexes. They don't just change what you do, they fundamentally reshape who you are. And honestly, this is the biggest takeaway from our explainer today. This is not just a system for building habits, it's a system for forging a brand new identity. You stop being the person who tries to be consistent and you just become consistent. It's just who you are. Because really, putting this system into practice, it requires a kind of death and rebirth. It's about letting go of that person who makes excuses, the one who negotiates with themselves, so that a new, truly unbreakable version of you can be born. So the only question left is, are you ready for that transformation?